Hi there, this is Peter from Healing Your Home. Have you ever felt like you're walking through life with unnecessary burdens on your shoulders? That it's crushing you. You feel that you have too much. I think we all have these experiences. And basically, most of the time, this is unprocessed emotions, something that we're holding on to and that we're not capable of letting go of. In this video, I'm going to talk about the power of forgiveness, which is an extremely simple, straightforward, and practical way to lift off many emotional packages. There are obviously techniques that are more nuanced, but as a general technique to lift burdens, forgiveness has no competitor, really. Forgiveness is one of these practices that is constantly underestimated. And the reason is it's too simple. Surely it cannot be so efficient. But it is. Because we misunderstand what forgiveness is. We don't actually realize what takes place when we forgive someone, when we forgive ourselves. Usually the reason for this is that we don't go deep enough into the forgiveness technique. We get rid of the burdens that we feel, and then we just drop the technique. But the technique brings us to places, to states that is really powerful. Forgiveness, it comes from, is grounded in peace. It's a deep, motherly, embracing peace. Because when you forgive someone or you forgive yourselves, you realize there's nothing I can do about this. I just have to let go of it. And you either consciously or unconsciously know that there is something much bigger, something much deeper than this what's being held. And this, if you carry on this deep enough, you will really get into the state of peace. The tantric schools call this Tara, or this is the goddess Tara, that is the goddess of forgiveness, of peace and compassion. And you really reach these deep states where you can feel that everything is okay, you're being held. And that's a beautiful, powerful place to be at. But we often have a lot of resistance to this, resistance to forgive, because we don't want to forgive, because we are so stuck in the story. We feel justified to our anger, annoyance, our hatred, what have you, because we feel that John doesn't deserve my forgiveness. But forgiveness, the practice of forgiveness, ignores more or less the story. It's actually very self-centered, but in a good way. It basically, at its first step to forgiveness, you admit, I'm holding some emotional resistance, some emotional baggage, and I'm tired of it. It's not helping. It's actually bringing me down. So please, let go of it. And there are many ways to get to this state, but one of the main one is to change the narrative. And here I'll give you super simple classical trick to do it. And it's a trick that is true. It's based on truth, and the truth is most of the time very simple. It's this deep realization that the people, they didn't actually know what they were doing. Even if they did it intentionally to harm someone, they don't see deep enough to see the consequences of their action. So the practice of forgiveness is deeply humbling to the one that is in the process of forgiving, because they know there are bigger forces in this universe than them and the one that did something bad to them. You're opening up to them, and that's a beautiful practice. I've often said in the past that I didn't know guilt before I became a parent. And forgiveness as a parent is just a new depth in forgiveness practice. Because as a parent, you have someone in your life that you touch like you touch no one else. And as a parent, you will make mistakes. That is absolutely guaranteed. And it's extremely difficult to open up and release to that. And I felt, in my case, I needed a deep practice in connection to Tara, to actually allowing myself to look at that guilt and then self-loathing, that guilt, everything that came with that, because I felt I had made mistakes as a parent. And I had made mistakes as parents, as we all do. But it comes back to the same thing. Do I want to hold on to those baggage? Are they serving me? They certainly weren't. So the only thing I could do as a parent is just to ask for forgiveness and do the same thing. I certainly didn't know any better. And it's a beautifully, beautifully liberating feeling when you feel like you made huge mistake as a father, in my case, and it just taken off. And what comes in instead is this peace, very strong peace. Because it comes into this story I told you about myself as a parent, it comes into the most difficult aspect of forgiving someone, and that is forgiving ourselves. Usually we can see relatively clearly that the person that harmed us didn't really mean it. Most of the time it's like that. Even if they meant to hurt us, you reasonably see that they kind of didn't know what they were doing. And I've had these stories with clients of mine that had traumatic things. But come to this crossroad, I don't want to hold on to this. Then you allow yourself to go at least partly into the shoes of the one that you're holding the resentment to. And like that, it's fairly easy, or at least it's easier to let go of it and forgive it. But for some reason, when it comes to ourselves, it's very, very, very challenging to forgive ourselves. Even sometimes if we are victims of some horrible thing, we feel really angry at ourselves to not to have stood and protected ourselves. But basically, it's just the same thing. It's the basic practice. Do you want to hold on to that baggage, or do you want to let it go? And obviously, when you come to that question, come to that crossroad with that awareness that you have actually baggage, of course nobody wants to hold them. So the forgiveness is one to release them. But now, what I've been talking about is pretty much based on a long, consistent practice of forgiveness. Usually the way we do forgiveness is that we do a silly mistake and we say, oh, please forgive me, or apologize for it. But what I'm talking about here is that you make it into, at least for some period of time, part of your daily practice, that you actually have your forgiveness practice. Because when you do these kind of forgiveness practice, a lot of shit will come up to the surface. A lot of things that have been holding you back come up to the surface, and you let go of them. Usually we don't go deep enough to allow this thing to come up, but with a consistent practice, it certainly will. So I'm going to give you a very, very simple practice that you can do pretty much whatever. So the practice starts like this, that you voice your intention. Either you can do it with your voice, of course, but you can also do it silently if you're in a bus or whatever. And you just say, I am going to start the forgiveness practice. So you start the practice by saying this sentence, I forgive, without finishing it. You just say, I forgive. And something will come to you, whether it's your parents, your child, your lover, whatever, in your past will come to you. And even if you start the practice and say, I forgive, and nothing happens, just repeat it a few times. It will come. You do this for 4 minutes, just what you say. You say it most of the time internally. You don't have to say it out loud, but of course you can if you want. And you say, I forgive my brother for mistreating me. And an emotion will come up, and you allow yourself to be in the emotion. You don't try to block it. Then when it's a bit of the motion fades away, you say again, I forgive. And this carries on like this for 4 minutes. The second phase of the practice is that you say, I forgive myself for, and then you allow the rest of the sentence to come. And again, if nothing comes straight away, you just repeat it a few times, and it will come for sure. And you do this phase of the practice also for 4 minutes. And when you've done this practice for 8 minutes, it's only 8 minutes, you will feel peace. That is guaranteed. Perhaps not the first time, perhaps not the second time, but with consistent practice, it will be guaranteed. And this is, the tantric practices call this Tara, the goddess Tara. Beautiful grace. So this was the practice of power of forgiveness. Simple but deep practice. And if you want to explore more of these kind of techniques, and especially techniques that are tailor-made for you, then please contact me as a healer. I have a healing practice called Healing Your Home, which is a shamanic practice but with a flair of tantra and yoga and meditation in it. And you can contact me in healingyourhome@gmail.com or on my Facebook Facebook page, which is basically called Healing Your Home. And just contact me if you have any questions, if you want to healing or whatever, just contact me. And if you like this video, please like it, subscribe to it, and sharing this content is greatly appreciated. So thank you for watching. Take care.